All right, good morning. Welcome. I hope you got to introduce yourselves to everyone at your table. Thank you for joining us this morning for our 7th PWPA LA hybrid event here at Cal State LA. So my name is Jasmine Santoro, and I will be one of your MCs for today's program. But we are the Professors World Peace Academy, founded on May 6, 1973 by Dr. Sun Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Jahan Moon. Since then, PWPA has hosted many international conferences and initiated countless projects to work towards creating a more peaceful world. In 2022, we launched the Los Angeles chapter of PWPA, and this is now our 3rd year. And so we want to thank all of you for joining us, whether you're here in person or through Zoom. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us this morning. And so we may have others joining us a little later, but I want to take this time to quickly recognize all the professors and faculty that we have here with us today. And so to do so, I'll start with those here at Cal State LA, and then we'll go to Zoom. So if you're on Zoom, please turn on your cameras so that we can highlight you and see your beautiful faces. But starting with those here at Cal State LA, we want to recognize as our PWPA International President, Dr. Thomas Selover and Dr. Grace Selover are here with us today. We also have our PWPA Advisory Committee member, Professor Grace Apiafi from Pasadena City College. From Cal State LA, here on this home campus, we have Professor Sam Chow. And from California State University, San Bernardino, Dr. Yewon Sung. Then coming all the way from Syracuse University, we have Dr. Cliff Davidson. From UCLA, we have Dr. Michael Stenstrom. And from Cal State Fullerton, my alma mater, we have Miss Elisa Thomas. And then from U.S. Military Academy West Point, we have Captain Michael Aldis. And from Chapman University, we have Captain Tadamine Kitaguchi. And then we also have Dr. Eric Richardson joining us. And so for Zoom, joining us from Tohono O'odham Community College, we have Dr. Adrian Quijada. I think he'll be pulled up on the screen. The great part about today is that because we're hybrid and we have Zoom, we can have professors joining all across from the country and different parts of the world. And so we're grateful today. We have many joining us from Arizona and the East Coast, and possibly a few from other countries. So we're grateful for today's technology. And so while we're waiting for them to pull up the Zoom, I actually want to recognize our tech team and AV team. They're often in the background, but they do a lot of the work. So we have Dr. Adrian Quijada joining us from Tohono O'odham Community College. From HJ International Graduate School for Peace and Public Leadership, we have Dr. Andrew Wilson joining us. From the Quantum Biology Research Lab, we have Dr. Glen Rein joining us. Oh, there we go. From North Carolina State University, we have Dr. Gracious Ngale joining us. From Ohio State University, we have Dr. Ratan Lal. Yay. From the DMZ Forum, we have Dr. Seung Ho Lee. Good to see you. From Brown University, we have Dr. Takahiro Hiroi. From Ohio State University, we have Dr. Tara Chowdhury. Okay. And then from the Satyana Institute, we have Dr. William Keepin. Yay, good to see you. From Illinois State University, we have Dr. J. Scott Jordan. Good to see you. And from the University of Utah, we have Mr. Owen Watkins joining us. Okay. So thank you, all of you, for joining us here today, whether in person or on Zoom. So I think we will have others slowly joining in the program throughout today. But yes, we look forward to spending the next 2 hours together with all of you. And so it is my honor today. I won't be your only MC, but I actually get to share this podium together with Captain Michael Aldous as my co-MC. He is an active duty Army officer assigned to be a Spanish instructor at West Point, New York. And so thank you for being here as our co-MC.
All right, thank you. The theme today, for today's program is a revolution of consciousness for innovative harmony with nature. Based on PWPA-LA's recent publication, we want to focus on exploring how a new scientific paradigm would help us reframe our understanding of reality and shift our relationship with the natural world. Our vision is a revolution of ethics and a renewed focus on utilizing science and technology to restore the natural world. So we are grateful for everyone's participation here today. Because each person's study and insight is key to achieving this. Together with each of you, we believe we can create a more beautiful world for future generations. To do this, we have an exciting program planned. We'll begin the program with Part 1, focused on the unity of religion and science. In this portion, we will have 3 presentations by renowned professors Dr. Cliff Davidson, Dr. Glen Rein, and PWPA International President, the Dr. Selover couple. Part 2, which will focus on campus sustainability, we will feature an interdisciplinary panel to share their insight, and then we will get a chance to share within our tables with each other. After that, we hope to ask a few people to share their ideas from their discussions. Then we'll have concluding remarks by Professor Grace Selover and our group photo. We have an exciting program today. I'm very excited, and we look forward to sharing this time with all of you. Thank you.
So we will go into the first portion of our program on the unity of religion and science. And so after the next few presentations, we will have time for a question and answer session. So if you have any questions, please remember them, jot them down on the notepad in front of you, and please make sure to ask them during that session. But to begin, we will welcome up Dr. Cliff Davidson. He is the Thomas and Colleen Wilmot Professor of Engineering Emeritus at Syracuse University. He received his doctorate in environmental engineering science from Caltech and spent most of his career at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. He served as president of the American Association for Aerosol Research and is currently active on committee of the American Society of Civil Engineers. In 2022 and 23, he served as Distinguished Lecturer of the Association of Environmental Engineering and Science Professors. He currently runs workshops on teaching sustainability and engineering courses and conducts research on green infrastructure and human perceptions of climate change. He has over 200 refereed publications. So Dr. Davidson will be speaking on Can We Live Sustainably? Lessons from History. Let's welcome him up. And this is a clicker, if you'd like to change your slide.
Great. Can you all hear me okay? Yes. This is working. Great. Well, thank you so much, Jasmine. It's really a great honor to be here, and we're going to go quickly through this brief presentation, which is actually going to cover the topic of the question, can we live sustainably, and what can we learn from history about how to live sustainably? I'd like to present this talk in 4 parts. After the introduction, we'll talk about the development of science and technology through history. and then we'll look at human attitudes toward the environment and our relationship with the environment before reaching some conclusions. Okay, so what is sustainability? What do we mean by sustainability? There are lots of different definitions. And one definition that we're going to be adopting here is actually often thought to be the earliest, one of the earliest definitions of sustainability, which was developed by the World Commission on Environment and Development. And that was a commission formed by the United Nations in 1987. And sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And if you think about that definition a little bit, there's a certain amount of vagueness in that definition, which is on purpose, but there's also a lot of depth. We'll be touching on a few points that relate to this particular definition. Also, I should mention that the modern view of sustainability includes economic as well as environmental and especially social sustainability. So, what are the key problems that, in terms of kind of a 30,000-foot view of sustainability? Well, first of all, our use of resources is critically important. All of us are aware we use a lot of non-renewable resources, and in addition, although we do use a lot of renewable resources, we are not using them at a sustainable rate, and so that's a problem. The second broad area is the accumulation of wastes. Most of our wastes go into landfills. And the problem there is not so much the lack of space for landfills, but rather the damage that this causes to the environment when we put in a new landfill. And that is really a problem because we degrade the environment every time we throw something away. And then thirdly, related to accumulation of waste is the damage to the environment. Almost all of this damage is due to unintended consequences. I believe very strongly that people are basically good. They want to do the right thing. But the problem is that if people don't understand the implications of their decisions, then they will do things that will cause danger nonetheless, even if they don't recognize it. And so these unintended consequences are a big problem, and of course climate change is one of the biggest of these issues, but also decreasing biodiversity, and the spread of disease. All of us are familiar with COVID and the problems that caused. So these are damage to the environment that we are responsible for by our unsustainable lifestyle. This is Vice President Al Gore, who put together the movie An Inconvenient Truth on climate change. And he, of course, is still believed to be one of the leaders of sustainability, and there's a lot more we can do. Okay, so let's look at science and technology through history. First of all, development of technology is the main way that human civilization has advanced. And even the ancient civilizations produced remarkable achievements. You can see the pyramids of Egypt pictured here, the Acropolis of ancient Athens, and the Colosseum in ancient Rome. Now, this did a lot of environmental damage, the way people lived back then. However, the population of the world back then was much smaller than it is today. And so the difference in population when we had in the neighborhood of tens or hundreds of millions of people is very different from today, where we have 8 billion people. So the scale of the damages is enormously different now. When did things start to become global? That really begins with the Industrial Revolution in the mid-1700s. And the scale of resource extraction grew enormously. The factories could use the invention of the steam engine, which is attributed to James Watt, in order to convert raw materials into finished products that people can use, much faster than before the steam engine was developed. And therefore, although we were human labor limited prior to the Industrial Revolution, after the Industrial Revolution, we became resource limited, which means that we did everything we could to expand our use of natural resources. And this, of course, led to colonization. And I think it's very important to realize that colonization introduced a lot of problems, and not the least of which is the fact that on a large scale, for the first time, indigenous populations living in their own countries were forced into slavery. And we should recognize this for what it is. Basically, this is a complete lack of social sustainability, and it needs to be addressed head on. In Western Europe, there was a lot of environmental damage. Basically, the factories were producing severe air and water pollution, very dangerous working conditions, and child labor was present in those factories. Again, very anti-social sustainability. So here's a drawing of James Watt's steam engine. This version was from 1784, although he did have earlier versions. The development of technology led to computers, which, of course, are widespread globally now. That's an IBM system from 2007 in the middle. And then this is a drawing actually done by one of my students about the idea of an energy-producing green roof, where you can see the solar panels, you can see the vegetation growing on the roof, but in fact, there's still a lot of, there are environmental effects with manufacturing solar panels and using solar panels, and constructing buildings, which we actually desperately need more buildings, not less buildings. So this is one of the problems when you've got such a large population globally. So what can we learn from history? Well, first of all, the human relationship with the environment has always been extract without regard to the consequences. This is not something that's new. There has never been a human civilization throughout our history where people have lived a sustainable lifestyle. And I think we should recognize that and learn from that, because we can see what happened to these civilizations. One example of what's happened is deforestation. That has been a critical problem in every single civilization. And there's a lot to talk about there. But in fact, people have needed forests for energy as well as for the wood material. But this has resulted in really devastating consequences. Building cities in floodplains has resulted in loss of life and property. And again, this is throughout history. The Romans did this. They had parts of their city that were located in floodplains, and people lost their lives when there were floods. So this is something that's not new. That center photograph is from Hurricane Katrina. That's the city of New Orleans. And you can see how bad the flood was. Basically, the streets were all flooded in this part of the city. The tree over on the far right side is a 375-year-old tree in a place called Heart's Content State Park, which is where my wife and I used to do some hiking and camping. But in fact, the old growth forest there is 22 acres. That's all. Think of the millions of acres of forested land throughout the country. And 22 acres is not much. And that's one of the only existing stands that has never been taken down. And the lumber companies decided to preserve that 22 acres. And one can still go there and see that. Okay, thirdly, I want to say just a few words about human attitudes toward nature. Human attitudes, human perceptions are extremely important. On the right is a photo of the Apollo 11 launch. And NASA has done an enormous amount to expand the technology so that human civilization can go exploring out of our planet. On the left is what's called the blue marble photo from 1972. This was Apollo 17. And that photo became world famous very shortly after it was taken, because for the first time, people were able to realize that, hey, the Earth is finite. There are real limits on the Earth. And this photo went a long way in getting the idea of sustainability into people's attention. Human attitudes also depend on their perceptions. But in fact, unfortunately, if we look at human perceptions of society and also of science, what we find is that there is a tremendous amount of misconception. I'm just listing one example here, which is the idea that fossil fuel producers are the evil people in the world. And in fact, there was some research done by Riley, 2017, that shows that less than 100 organizations worldwide produce more than 70% of the world's fossil fuels. So that's a very small number of organizations, and lots of people have advocated basically going to those companies and taking whatever steps are needed so that they stop producing fossil fuels. But in fact, that is nowhere near sufficient. And you see that the next item I mentioned, that Bin and Dolatabadi find that over 80% of the carbon dioxide emissions are by individual consumers. And those are people who will complain, and they will complain forcefully if fossil fuels are halted. You see those old gas pumps down there. That's from leaded gasoline days. And I'll just say very quickly, in my own home state, my current home state of New York, back in 1922, when tetraethyl lead was invented as an anti-knock agent in automobiles, there was an immediate adoption to put lead in gasoline, and it was done right away. And within a year, there was a serious accident in a New Jersey tetraethyl lead processing plant, and people realized how dangerous lead was. And we've always known that lead is dangerous. And so the US government did their best to try and stop leaded gasoline, as well as several states, including New York and New Jersey, to make leaded gasoline illegal, but there were massive protests. People wanted to be able to drive their cars fast, and they did not put up with government regulations, and they had major protests. So in fact, we have to convince the global population about what's the right thing to do here. We can't just go to fossil fuel companies. One of the misconceptions is the difference between the perceived energy consumption and the actual energy consumption. That dotted line going up at a 45-degree angle, all the points should be on that line if people's perceptions of energy, as shown on the y-axis, were correct, were equal to the actual energy. But in fact, you can see that the curve starts to become horizontal, and that's because people greatly underestimate the true energy that's needed when they get to high energy consuming items. So, as a result, this misconception is a big problem. And this is a graph that basically shows how hard or how easy it is for people to change their behavior according to what people think. And you can see, this is a survey that one of my students did, and you can see that right in the middle of the graph, where we have item number 4 on the x-axis, that is neutral, where people believe it is neither hard nor easy. To the right, they believe it's very hard. To the left, they believe it's easy. And you can see all of the points are on the side of the graph where people believe they can make changes very easily. So what conclusions can we draw from this? Well, first of all, human civilization has overcome enormous obstacles to reach the present level of development. But in achieving these, this development that we've got now, we've done severe damage to the environment. And one good point that we know of is we don't have to take care of nature. Nature will take care of itself perfectly well. We just have to give it an opportunity. So giving up is not an option. We have to solve our environmental crises. It's a necessity if our civilization is to survive. And we know that even though people think that they can easily change themselves, as shown in that survey, we know for a fact that many things it's virtually impossible for people to do themselves. And that is because of so many misconceptions and such a lack of understanding. So education is a real key to all of this. And finally, let me end on an optimistic note. We can do this. We just have to. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much for that presentation of the bigger picture of human history and our relationship with nature. We look forward to changes and a brighter future we can create. For our next presentation, we will like to invite up Dr. Glen Rein. After obtaining a PhD from London University and assistant professorship at Mount Sinai Medical School, he studied various biomedical disciplines at prestigious institutes like Harvard and Stanford Medical Schools. Dr. Rein has extensive corporate experience at a Fortune 100 company, working on innovative product development and obtaining numerous patents. He is currently CEO of the Quantum Biology Research Lab, conducting innovative basic and contract research. More recently, Dr. Rein has co-founded Glee Biologics with Dr. Lee Lorenzen. Glee is developing aquaceuticals with structured water, nanoparticles, and frequencies of biomolecules and pharmaceuticals in accordance with the emerging field of informational pharmacology. Dr. Rein has numerous scientific publications, including Nature, and is on numerous boards, has lectured in 8 countries, and appeared on numerous radio, TV, and documentary films. He will be speaking on a shift in collective consciousness. Please welcome him up. Dr. Rein.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for the invitation to attend this very interesting conference. I love talking about conferences about God because, as a scientist, I don't get to use that word very often. So that's great for me. So here's the title of my talk. And I am going to start off by talking about collective consciousness as a definition, as the resonances between individual consciousnesses. So then the question is, what is the nature of the individual consciousness? And to me, it's all about energy. That now these energies that define individual consciousness are non-classical. That means that they don't obey the laws of Maxwell and Hertz and conventional electromagnetic fields. And of these kind of energy fields, there are many different types. Here's a list of some of the types. They are generated when you have mathematical solutions that are real solutions. And these solutions can be represent physical phenomena, in this case, waves. And there are many different types of waves that are generated mathematically. Now, some of these are found in the real world and some are not. And here's a list, you can read it for yourself. But the more interesting one that this is an old slide, and most recently I've discovered a new kind of field, which is called an imaginary field. Imaginary because it's made of imaginary numbers, like all of quantum physics is based on imaginary numbers. So these are the kind of energies that I'm talking about that are involved with the consciousness itself. And they're also, well, okay, so leave it at that. Right. So here's a slide depicting how 2 different individuals can communicate and resonate with each other energetically at all of these different levels. Now, I use the terminology electromagnetic, EM, SC is scalar energy, which is like electromagnetic, but a little more subtle. And then we have quantum energy, and then we have divine energy at its source. Now, there are many different layers between the physical body and God. So here I've only depicted 3 or 4 levels. But according to Eastern Indian traditions, there are as many as 36 different levels, and each level can be considered a type of energy. But just to understand the concept, what we're talking about here is resonance between 2 individuals at these different levels, energy levels. So that is what constitutes collective consciousness. Now, it turns out that the individuals can also resonate with nature, which is part of the theme of this conference. And the way that we resonate with nature is at all these different energy levels. So now the question becomes, well, what is nature? Well, nature to me is really the environment. Okay, so in the environment we have individual consciousness. Yes, we have nature and energy from the trees and the plants, and then we also have this phenomena, this intrinsic energy of the universe, if you will. Now, 0 point energy, ZPE, is one type of universal energy which is present everywhere. This is a quantum energy. There's another kind of universal energy, which is called the background microwave energy, which is electromagnetic in nature. So, in addition to having the trees and the plants and the people in nature, we have all this residual background energy. And it's just all part of the complex nature of how we interact with the environment. Okay, so now that I've defined individual consciousness, we can talk about how to raise consciousness or how consciousness can be shifted To me, that means raising consciousness, because the first step in shifting your consciousness is to raise your consciousness. And how do we do that? Well, I've got two different methods here in the interest of time. One is through meditation, which is self explanatory, and the other is an influx of divine energy into the body. Now, this can happen by two different mechanisms that I'm aware of, probably more than that. One is through the crown chakra, and one is through molecules that act as antenna for this kind of higher dimensional, subtle energy or divine energy. Because what we're really interested in the environment is the divine energy. So here's a picture depicting how nature or the divine energy in nature comes in through the crown chakra. It goes down the Sushumna, which is the central channel in the spinal cord. Then it reaches the base of the coccyx, or the base of the spine, and it comes back up the Ida and Pingala, the two channels there that look like snakes, because in medicine they use that symbol. And when this energy comes back up, this is the still divine energy. Then it radiates out into the rest of the body, forming what the biofield, which is another term for the individual consciousness. And exactly how this occurs is complex. It's a phenomenon that involves phase conjugation, as you can see, and I don't really have time to talk about it, but I have published about this. So this is a theory of mine that is now published. Okay, so this is how one way that we can create, bring in the divine energy from the environment. The second method is using various antennae. So I'm going to use DNA as an example of a kind of higher order structure. Now, DNA we know exists as a helix, but the helix can wind itself into a toroid, which is seen as an electron microscope in the bottom right photographs. These are actual photographs taken by biologists. Biologists acknowledge that there are toroids. The DNA exists as a toroid, but they have no idea what the function of it is. What I'm going to propose is that it acts as an antenna for divine energies through a mechanism that I'll show you in a second, that involves a catenoid, which is the center of a toroid. Catenoid looks like this, and a catenoid in physics is called a wormhole, a special kind of wormhole, which allows divine energy or higher dimensional energy, here depicted as 5-dimensional energy, into ordinary 4D electromagnetic energy. And this is the first step that's involved in bringing down this kind of energy, because divine energy is so refined, the body doesn't know how to deal with it. I believe it has to be down converted into more dense energy, like scalar energy and electromagnetic energy, so that it can be used by the body either to help heal the body or to allow us to be come up with new solutions to the environment. So that's the bottom line. Thank you very much. Pleasure.
So thank you, Dr. Rein, for that insightful presentation, looking deeper at collective consciousness. I don't know about you, but I learned a lot of new concepts from that, and I'm interested in going deeper into those topics. But to continue on for our next presentation, we would like to invite up PWPA International Presidents, Dr. Thomas and Grace Selover. Dr. Thomas Selover is the International Co-Coordinator of IAAP, the International Association of Academicians for Peace. He has a doctorate in comparative religion and East Asian philosophy from Harvard University and has taught for over 25 years in colleges and universities in the US, Canada, as well as in China and Korea. His wife, Dr. Grace Selover, has completed her Doctorate of Ministry degree at Sonak UP Graduate University in Korea, focusing on emerging women's pastoral leadership. They will be sharing about harmonious interconnectedness, based on PWPA LA's recent publication. Let's welcome them up.
Good. Thank you. I'm going to go first. So I'm very glad to be here and to share with you a little bit. Share with you a little bit about harmonious interconnected consciousness, harmonious interconnectedness maintained by consciousness. And I'll be drawing on actually a set of traditional conceptual resources from the Confucian tradition of East Asia. So it's a different channel of thinking than we've just heard, but maybe they are compatible. So I hope so. So first, if I talk about the Confucian tradition, this Chinese character up on the upper right-hand corner is the keynote of Confucian tradition. The pronunciation Chinese ren or Korean in. It means human relatedness, humaneness or human relatedness as something substantial, substantially related with each other. So I believe, and scientists can confirm this possibility, that the relationships among us, particularly intimate relationships, are substantial. And if we had the right kind of camera or other measurement, you could measure that. You could see it. Even at a distance, those relationships are as real as the persons who are in relationship, I would argue. So the Confucians talked about this quality as that which coheres us together. Coheres us, first of all, as a family unit. It was discovered in family units. Not only the family together right now, but also the continuity of the family between generations is connected by this quality of ren, or in. Then they went a step farther to understand that we ourselves, each of us, is a living example of the interconnectedness, harmonious interconnectedness of this ren, or in, that our lived body itself is connected by this quality. Why do we feel that, that our arms and legs are part of our lived body? Because of that vital sensitivity. Were that not so, then like limbs that are numb or paralyzed, no longer connected, they're not part of our lived body, even though they're still physically attached. So this metaphor, which comes from traditional Chinese medicine, very old, for how things are connected in the lived body, also says something about how we are connected in our personal relationships, our family relationships, and also, thirdly, our resonance with the natural environment. So that just as we are living beings, then we live in a vital environment. So connection with that environment, both the cosmos as a whole and the individual elements of it. So all of that forming one body through this quality of humane connectedness, sensitivity, I might say. So from the other side, that sensitivity is open to transcendence. It's open to God. It's open to transcendence at every point. So from the other side, we can say the universe, the cosmos, as we experience it, is formed as one body, maintained by consciousness, by awareness, permeated with consciousness that we can call empathetic awareness, which means that the world of our experience is open for relationship. It's a relational world. So, this is from the guide. We discover consciousness in the natural world through observation of interconnectedness. Particularly, the more we understand ecological systems, the more we realize that interconnectedness is vital to the health and well-being of each of the parts. So we understand the process of creation as well. Over time, we see this vital interconnectedness as the keynote. The recognizing that consciousness is the animating subject producing the world of our experience, not our privatized consciousness, but the world consciousness. And matter is the external form of that. Now, that's one of the Chinese characters I wanted to pay some attention to. Here is the other one. The pronunciation is gong in both Chinese and Korean. The character itself signifies togetherness, sharedness, common purpose. It turns up in a lot of common words, like taking the public bus, for example. It's a resource that we share. So from this, we can expand to understanding harmonious interconnectedness in the realm of society, in the features of our society. So we can say that this is the keynote of PWPA's social vision, as originally founded and is practiced not only here, but in other parts of the world as well. Namely, interdepending as an activity, core value sharing, and mutually prospering or mutually flourishing. That it's not a zero-sum game between us, it's not a zero-sum game between us and the natural world around us. It's a matter of mutually prospering. So this is the concept that underlies what we often say in PWPA: interdependence, mutual prosperity, universally shared values. It comes back to the word gong, which means sharing. And I would argue that like the humaneness, like Ren concept, gong concept is also open to transcendence. That's why it can work. If not, it's just something we dream up for ourselves. Okay, so this is all maintained socially as well by higher consciousness. So our social environment is sustained by the spiritual. So many of these ideas are described in the Innovative Solution for Environmental Issues, this guide, which I highly recommend to everyone here to pay some attention with it. And indeed, we have some of the authors and contributors of the guide here among us today. So PWPA and the ICUS conference, the International Conference on Unity of Sciences, which many of you are familiar with, are projects that were started by Dr. Sun Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Jahan, together as a couple, have been sponsoring these kinds of activities all over the world for a long time, even since the 1970s, encouraging scientists and other scholars too, engineers as well, all of us together to address values and the importance of values so that we can restore true, authentic, sustainable creativity. So this couple together has formed an exemplary partnership. So talk about partnership, I would like to invite my wife, Dr. Grace Selover, to join me at the podium. I'm standing by. We manifest true creativity by loving, now you do, thank you. By loving the natural environment, by loving fellow human beings, by loving God.
So as you can see the chart here, when we talk about science, we talk about religion. We talk about religion, we talk about science. Science and religion cannot be separate. And we talk about religion, we naturally talk about God. Some people call God Yahweh. Some people call God Allah. Some people call God Sandi. And some people call God Heavenly Father. Many names of God. And the cosmic presence of God. But then you see the heart there. What is the divine heart of love? What is the importance of it? And we know the heart is the presence of the divine consciousness through the creation. As we know in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, we know the man and woman were created in God's image. Most of us know this verse. So we know that then what is the quality of this divine heart and love? Actually, it is the masculine divine quality and the feminine divine quality that resemble God. Divine consciousness or God actually is above all, through all, and in all, in you all, as mentioned in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 6. So I just also want to remind you all that birth comes from mother. Without mother, none of us would be here. Without heavenly mother, neither man nor woman would exist. As a woman, I have been inspired by the teachings and the examples of Dr. Hajjan Han, who helped me to understand the Heavenly Mother. So at this moment, I also like to encourage each one of you to learn more about Dr. Hajjan Han. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Selover, for inspiring presentation on harmonious interconnectedness and true creativity. Next, we'll watch a short video presentation titled Consciousness of the Paradigm Shift for a Sustainable Future, prepared by the PWPA LA production team. Please turn your attention towards the screen.
When we look at the natural world, we see a clear principle. Nothing exists for its own sake. The universe is built on interconnectedness, each part giving and receiving for the sake of the whole. The natural world reveals direction and purpose woven into the ecological cycle. This is the work of consciousness. The universe itself, in its creative unfolding, bears the imprint of consciousness. But human beings, unlike the rest of creation, have broken this order. Out of selfishness and endless desire, we have polluted air and water, destroyed ecosystems, and placed our own survival at risk. The crisis we face is not only environmental, it is a crisis of human consciousness. Now we must make a paradigm shift in our heart, correcting our consciousness and recovering the original order of creation. Science seeks truth through observation and reason. Religion seeks truth through meaning and purpose. Together, science and spirituality can form a unified endeavor that heals the earth. History shows that science transforms when discoveries expand our paradigm, from Newton to Einstein to the quantum revolution. Today, discoveries of quantum entanglement, dark matter, and dark energy point to another paradigm shift, one that challenges classical assumptions and opens a way to include consciousness itself. Now is the time for a new paradigm, where humanity awakens to our responsibility and together with creation builds a world of peace, harmony, and beauty. This is possible when science and religion unite to seek the whole truth.
Thank you to the PWPA LA team for that video. And so now we would like to make the time to receive comments on the presentations we just heard. And so I would actually like to invite up over Zoom Dr. Ratan Lal, a renowned soil scientist from Ohio State University, to share his thoughts and comments. If you're able to unmute Dr. Lal.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this very thought-provoking discussion. And I have certainly learned many things, but I would like to make 5 comments in particular. Dr. Davidson mentioned nature will take care of itself. The question is, over what period of time? nature will take care of it over geological period of time. And human demands and needs happen over human period of time. And therefore, there is a little bit of discrepancy between the two. For example, the impact of Vietnam War on nature is still being felt 60 years after. Not over yet. How long will it take to overcome the impact on nature of the current wars, such as Ukraine and other places? So that's one comment I'd like to make. The second, which Dr. Rein presented, was that nature and environment, individual consciousness can be either by meditation or it can be influx of divine power. I would have really liked to understand how does the influx of divine power can be managed, can be increased. And that part is something that I did not quite understood. The third comment I have about Dr. Grace Selover, I very much appreciated harmonious interconnectedness, forming one body. And I think Barry Commoner had the same thing. Everything is connected to everything else. And right now we are coming up with interconnectedness on the One Health concept. And the One Health concept from the point of view of preventive disease issues, which indicates, from my perspective as a soil scientist, that the health of soil, plants, animal, people, environment, and the planet is interconnected. And therefore, that interconnectedness has a practical implication that if you damage nature, you are eventually going to damage yourself. And that is a very important concept to understand of the interdependence, of mutual flourishing, of symbiosis, of working together and harmony. Humanity to work in symbiosis, harmony with nature, not against nature. Mrs. Selover also made very important point. I especially like the idea of divine as fatherly involvement, fatherly concept, and of course, motherly involvement and motherly concept. So that male and female part having equal role in addressing the problem is very, very nicely presented. And finally, the final speaker mentioned very nicely, science is observation and religion is meaning. In fact, that comes straight from Einstein's own observation, saying the same thing, that the science is to explain things, while religion is to achieve the meaningfulness. I think all those points were excellent, have many profound meaning, and have implication to addressing the global issues of present era. We have many global issues, and I think this is one of the approach which could be very important to address those issues, leading to harmony between humanity and nature. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you, Dr. Lal, for those comments. And yes, we will give our speakers a chance to respond, but we will receive one more comment. We would like to invite up Satyana co-founder, Dr. William Keepin, who specializes in the intersection between interreligion and science. And so, Dr. Keepin, if you would also like to share your comments at this time.
Thank you very much. It's a great privilege to be here today. And I wondered if I might be able to screen share. I'm going to try to screen share here. Here we go. I want to begin with a kind of unifying comment that comes from a Buddhist scholar, Ajit Mukherjee, who said, if you come to know the deepest secrets of the body, you come to know the deepest secrets of the cosmos. And basically, what you see here is a fern. And if you look at the structure of a fern, you'll see that one small part of it is a replica of the whole structure. And this is a principle that I think is the foundation of interconnectivity. And it applies on all manner of levels. Here's another example. This is a Romanesque broccoli. And if you look at it, it has a very unique shape. But if you look close up, you'll see that each of those nodules is a miniature replica of the original. And so there's this property of self-similar structures at all these different scales. And the reason I'm bringing this in, here we have it with tree branches. You can see that the tree branch splits off, and the pattern of the structure of branches is the same from the trunk to the branches, to the twigs, to the tiniest little twigs on the branches. We see lightning also has this structure of self-similar patterns. These kinds of structures where we see self-similar patterns across vastly different scales also takes place, like the trachea in the human lungs are another example of this. So long story short, what I want to suggest is that there is a nature of what physicist David Bohm called the holo movement, in which the entire cosmos is a single connected wholeness in flowing movement, in which each part of the flow contains the entire flow. And to give you an example of that, the simplest example in mathematical physics is what's called, or in fractal geometry. And here you have this mathematical object. And as we dive in, what we find is this incredible complexity and richness of this simplest structure of nonlinear iterative process. And this is the simplest example of the holo movement, or the holographic structure of the cosmos. And what I want to suggest is that it applies not only to the physical universe, but to the consciousness universe. And this is where it unifies all of the things that have been talked about here today. So, for example, when Dr. Glen Rein was saying that we have this divine consciousness that enters the human being through the crown chakra, and then it travels down the spine and then back up the spine. There is a whole cosmic process that's replicated in the human body. And I want to just show you how this works, because there you saw back there a complete replica of the original structure that is manifest in an exact replica hundreds of millions of times smaller. And this, I think, is the inherent structure of the cosmos, that we live in a cosmos in which the macroscopic structure of the cosmos is actually precisely replicated inside every one of us, every being. And because of that, we have this principle of what is called quantum entanglement, the whole idea of the fundamental interconnection of the universe with itself. And in my understanding, this is what gives rise to this fundamental process of interconnection of everything with everything else, which the physicist, I'm sorry, the spiritual master Thich Nhat Hanh called interbeing. And so to wrap this up, what is needed here is science needs to open itself to these higher levels of consciousness. Dr. Rein mentioned there were 4 or 36, or in Theosophy, they have 49 levels of reality. Each of these levels, there are laws that take place on those levels that transcend the laws of the lower levels. And contemporary science limits itself too much to the physical universe and needs to open into these higher dimensions of the consciousness universe. And so I agree with Dr. Davidson that nature will take care of itself, but only if we inhabit the fullness of our nature. We cannot limit ourselves to our material nature or our physical nature, but we must inhabit the fullness of our divine nature. And when we do that, we find that this principle of sushumna that Dr. Rein referred to, where there's this central channel in the human being, we find that same principle in the Taoist tradition and the Eastern Chinese tradition of what's called the microcosmic orbit, and in Tibetan Buddhism also of what's called the central channel, where the entire cosmic process is replicated inside the human being on a consciousness level. And when we discover that beautiful principle that Mrs. Selover spoke to, which is that the heart is the presence of divine consciousness. The heart is the gateway to divine consciousness. And she also spoke about the masculine and feminine divine resemble God, which of course is the essence of that scripture from Genesis 1:27, where God essentially self-identifies as both masculine and feminine, basically saying human beings were created in the image of God, male and female. So God is also male and female. We are miniature, fractally microscopic instantiations of that divine embrace between the masculine and feminine dimensions of divinity. And as we expand beyond our limited kind of rational consciousness into the fullness of our full spiritual nature, I think we will begin to heal both humanity and our relationship with the natural earth and with all of existence. Thank you very much. Great pleasure to be here today.
Thank you, Dr. Keepin, for those comments and for sharing that as well. And so we wanted to give our speakers a chance to respond if they'd like to. I know there were some comments and questions in those in the comments we just received. So if Dr. Davidson, would you like to respond or add anything?
Okay, thank you, Jasmine. Yes, I did want to respond first to Dr. Lal's comment, but also in general to several of the ideas that came out. I think that taken all together, what these comments signify to me is the enormous complexity of life on the planet, the enormous complexity of the planet as part of the solar system, and the solar system as part of the cosmos and the whole universe. And I think it is wonderful. I learned a lot by listening to all of the talks this morning, and I learned a lot by listening to the questions as well. One overall thought that comes to me is that we live in a world in a cosmos with such enormous complexity that we need to recognize that the world is complex, that the cosmos is complex, and indeed keep probing these questions that have been asked. The big problem that we have is going back to history, if we look historically, of course, people have always been intellectually curious and they've always probed the unknown, but there are also so many people that want to exert control over those things that they feel they can control, they have some control over. And in fact, I think that humans, as great as our minds are to be able to encompass complex concepts, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to understand reality in all of the dimensions that exist. And I think that as people, we need to be humble and recognize that there is intelligence out there in the cosmos that we can strive to understand, but we have to admit that we certainly don't understand it now, and therefore we should not try to control everything in a way that makes life more convenient for us, because there are always these unintended consequences. That's my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Davidson, for that comment and for responding. And that's an important point. Yeah. And so we also wanted to give the opportunity for Dr. Rein, if you would also like to respond or add anything else as well. Let's see, we'll give, you're still muted. We'll unmute you.
Unmute. Okay, I am
Perfect.
unmuted. Well, thank you everybody for attending this first session. I guess first I wanted to clarify the question that Dr. Lal had about the influx of divine energy. The point there was that, yes, the world is very complex, and in order to understand the world, let alone the divinity in the world, we have to get in touch with our own divinity. And one way to do that is through meditation. And the other way is to bring that divine energy into us from outside. And I understand that God is within us all the time anyway, but we can also bring in more divine energy to awaken the divine energy that is in us. And I outlined two different mechanisms how that could occur. And the point also worth mentioning is that when we do get in touch with that our own divinity, that we can not only understand the complex world that was just outlined, but we can make better solutions to the environmental crises. So in other words, the more we resonate with the nature, and God is full within nature, as the more we can resonate with God and nature, the more we understand nature and its complexity, and that would therefore allow us to come up with better solutions to how we can not destroy nature in the process of our own evolution. So the bottom line is, for me, is how to get in touch with that divinity that's already there and bring in more as much as possible. So that's my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rein. One question. Okay, so sorry, due to time, we won't be able to take everyone's questions, but we did want to open the floor for our question and answer portion. So, yes, we can have, Dr. Selover respond as well. Sorry, my apologies.
Just very quickly. Hello? It's okay? Good. So first, I'd like to thank Dr. Lal for bringing up the concept of symbiosis. And so symbiosis would be translated into the Korean language as gongseng, using that gong, that connectedness, gongseng, living together, vibrating together. So I think that concept of symbiosis is very much near the heart of what we're talking about in our presentation. And also the One Health concept. The health of the couple relationship, too, is in there. I appreciate Dr. Rein's discussion about resonance. And resonance is gongmyang. So it's another gong concept that joins us together and is open to the divine. And I want to thank Dr. Keepan for so many things. Two things I'll mention. One is interbeing, bringing that concept to us. And so I'm trying to find a way to talk about the couple being. It's not one and another, two become one. So there's something new there. And heart as the gateway. I love it. Thank you so much. One and all, it's a very exciting to be among such a learned society. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Selover. Yeah, that was an insightful discussion and back and forth between the speakers, the comments, and responding. So thank you to all of our speakers and to our commentators as well. So due to time for our question and answers, we're going to do something a little bit unique this time. And we're going to ask that if you have questions for any of our speakers, please jot them down, write them down, and we would like to collect them. And then afterwards, we will ask our speakers to get back to you with the answers. And so if you have a question, please write it down. And yes, we want to collect them. If you're over Zoom, please, save them. And we will get back to you with the answers. But we want to thank all of you for answering and for this insightful first portion of our program. And now we will go into our second portion.
Yes, so thank you. The transition to the second portion of our program, we're going to focus on campus sustainability. To begin this session, we'll invite an interdisciplinary panel up to the table, if you can. If you'd like to come up to the front while I introduce you. Our facilitator for discussion will be one of our PWPA LA Advisory Committee members, Professor Grace Selover from Pasadena City College. We also have Dr. Michael Stenstrom, a distinguished professor in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department of UCLA. Miss Alyssa Thomas, Director of Sustainability and Transportation Demand Manager at Cal State Fullerton. From Zoom, we will have Dr. Adrian Quijada, who directs the Land Grant Office of Sustainability at Tohono O'odham Community College. And Dr. Cliff Davidson, our earlier speaker from Syracuse University. The question we will ask each panelist to answer is, how can we spark a paradigm shift in students' consciousness to awake a deep sense of personal responsibility for the environment? And to pass the time, Grace Selover. Thank you.
Thank you. This is fantastic, and I just want to commend you all. You always give us something to think about. And for the panelists here, I'm just facilitating. I'm not answering the questions, so I'm going to turn it over to you guys today. The first person we have is Dr. Stenstrom. For the question, we have about 45 minutes per question, if you don't mind. And then we'll go to Ms. Thompson, Dr. Quijada, and Dr. Davidson. We're going to go in that order, if that's okay. Okay, Dr. Stenstrom.
Well, thank you for inviting me here. I'm pleased to be speaking. I'm glad to say that I've been at a couple of these before and some of the other meetings in Korea. And I was asked to talk about sustainability at UCLA and how that might encourage students to become more interested in sustainability and take a more active role. And I've been at UCLA for a long time. When people ask me how long I've been there, I just say forever. I joined UCLA in 1977 as an assistant professor, and my field is environmental engineering related to water. And as I look back over my time at UCLA, I can see lots of interest in sustainability, and it's partly motivated by economics, which I think is a good thing. But the first thing I'll mention is our former Chancellor, Chancellor Young, a 29-year chancellor who took UCLA from being a small UC campus to being the major campus in terms of student enrollment and funding. Even though we are the smallest in terms of geographical area, about 440 acres. And I saw Chancellor Young exhibit leadership in spite of some criticism or in spite of possibilities for problems. He was bold. And in his example, when I came to UCLA, we had smog alerts all the time, all over Los Angeles. And Cliff Davidson was here at Caltech at the time, so he would have observed those as well. And one of the things that the Air Board was trying to do was to limit commuter paths to various places. And so UCLA was given a challenge of reducing commutes to the campus, because I think back then we had at least 25,000 commutes per day. And that created a lot of smog, consumed a lot of energy, and we were still using leaded gasoline prior to that time. So Chancellor Young just said, okay, we'll reduce it by this huge amount. And everybody on the staff got alarmed. How can we possibly do that? And Chancellor Young just said, well, we'll build dormitories, because we didn't have many dormitories then, and we were looking for incentives to build dormitories, and now we have lots. And it's an example of how something like reducing smog generation created dormitories, which are really helpful for students. And he showed leadership throughout his tenure, his 29-year tenure. And he involved students with diversity. He was a big champion of diversity. And as a result, we have done a number of things at the campus to reduce energy, reduce water consumption. And they include things like very early adoption of more efficient lighting, fluorescents, and now LEDs, landscaping to minimize water consumption. And we were leaders in adopting low-flow toilets and low-flow shower heads and low-flow urinals, and that's been a big benefit. We had a very aggressive program to remove mercury thermometers and mercury instruments from laboratories. I got a call one day saying they were coming to take all of my thermometers, my mercury thermometers, and they replaced them with alcohol thermometers. And that was something that was done, and I think the key to that was it was done at the administration's cost. It didn't cost me to buy new thermometers. If I'd had to buy them, then I would have had to figure out the funding, and it would have delayed things and so forth. We have a very aggressive hazardous waste management program. We have a stormwater management program. We're in the process of building a reclamation plant to intercept some of the sewers near the campus to create distilled water for the energy conservation system. We were very lucky with President Clinton that he facilitated a major improvement after the Northridge earthquake, and we were able to continue our own power plant, which at the time was much more sustainable than the older power plants that were used by the various agencies. And so I've watched this occur with students and being encouraged by students to participate. And so now we have a lot of organizations whose interest is in sustainability. We created the Institute of the Environment, and we renamed it the Institute of the Environment and Sustainability because we were interested in that. And we're trying hard to get environmentally approved buildings. I think the Institute is a silver building. And so that's just a snapshot of what we've done. And I guess the most specific answer to the question is that if the administration and the faculty are doing things to encourage sustainability, then the students will see it and they'll get interested as well. And so I think that's the success story we have.
Thank you, Dr. Stenstrom. We see what UCLA, we've heard what UCLA is doing and how they're working, to save the environment, I should say. Sustainability is a word that we all know about. So now we want to hear what Cal State Fullerton is doing.
Good morning, everybody. First, I'd like to have us all just take a deep breath. Let it out. Welcome, everyone. You are sitting in the South Coast Air Base in the smoggiest region in the United States. So think carefully before you take that next breath. The largest part of our carbon footprint is something that we each can do something about, and that's our transportation choices. We heard earlier about the desire to eliminate fossil fuel production, and that would lead to angry villagers with pitchforks about please don't take away, my fossil fuel vehicle, my transportation. What is important, I think, in academia is to tie the theoretical into the practical. A lot of times divisions work in silos. So academic affairs is doing their own thing in the classroom, and admin and finance is doing their own thing with, custodial and construction and transportation. And there's a lot of opportunities to, I think, offer our students academic internships within the campus setting itself, so that we can learn and affect sustainable changes, and give students a voice in their own environment. So we have, for example, a sustainability internship through Center for Internships and Community Engagement in user experience to improve our website. Most of our students are getting their information from their handheld devices. So how are we relaying that information in a way that meets the student where they're at, and trying to do a better job there? We also are doing internships through waste recycling and composting. A lot of students are interested in reducing, contaminants from the waste stream. And there are many ways to do that. I have one research assistant that's studying porous asphalt and pervious concrete in parking lot reconstruction, which has a much higher upfront cost, but a much lower maintenance cost over time. So over 40 years, you'll achieve financial sustainability and savings, which is the bottom line for our admin and finance VPs. But what you also get is a reduction in stormwater runoff and filtration of water and filtering those pollutants out as they reach back down into the groundwater system. So all these are work that can be done by students, supported by staff, and affecting a change on our campus. And for anybody from Cal State Fullerton, Jasmine, we have a 26-acre arboretum on our campus, which really affords students, faculty, and staff with the opportunity to deeply connect with nature in a way that is very personal and resonates. When you can go through the arboretum and see, smell, touch, feel, nature, you are intimately connected with the environment, and that can stimulate the desire for change. We recently did a study in collaboration with other arboreta around the world to transfer plants within that system of arboreta, so that what won't survive climate change at the Cal State Fullerton Arboretum in 20 years can be moved to an arboretum in Australia where it can survive and thrive, and then we can take plants from them that will do well here, and that way we we maintain our biodiversity and reduce reduction of plant species. Again, this work was done by students. So each campus has a smaller number of faculty and staff, huge number of students. And I think that it's really empowering, especially for students experiencing climate anxiety for what they're going to inherit upon graduation, to start by giving them a voice in the practical world. When I started to mention about students' interest in waste reduction, we're trying to eliminate something as simple as like personal waste bins next to your desk, and using a common waste, recycle, and compost area on each floor of each building. Most students are like, why isn't this already happening? And it's like, well, because it involves a meet and confer with the union. You can't add work or take away work from somebody's job that touches on social justice issues while you're trying to achieve environmental justice goals. So again, bringing our students into our operations so that they can learn how to affect change in the real world is a tremendous opportunity. and that we are privileged to be able to provide at Cal State Fullerton and other campuses.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. That is that's exciting to know that you guys get the students involved. I'm a student advocate. I will always stand for students, and anything that involves getting the student to profit or to gain from it, oh, I'm 100% in favor. So thank you for saying that. Wonderful. Our next panelist is Dr. Kihanda. And that is from Zoom. Let's take our attention to Zoom and give him a chance to answer the question. Thank you, sir.
Good, Tash. Good morning. Thank you for this invitation. I'm here in behalf of our president, Dr. Stephen Shoemaker. As we speak right now, he's right now in the Tohono districts presenting the annual report. It's an obligation that we have with our communities to report the activities of the college for each of the 11 districts that is conformed in the Tohono Nation. So in his behalf, I'm presenting this. And if you allow me, I'm going to share a few slides because we at the college, we're very graphic, very visual, and we like always to show images. So Tohono Community College is a college that was established in 1998. And it was a long process because the idea to establish a college was in the late 80s, but it wasn't until 1998 that we were able to become a college. It's an associate degree college, implying that our students are able to transfer to the university after 2 years. And also, we offer workforce training. In place many classes and training, some of them short-term, that are focused in provide job opportunities to community members. So I would like just to give you kind of like a framework, if it's possible in this short time, about the Tohono O'odham. The Tohono O'odham are very well known in the academic area and also in the cultural area in terms of their adaptability to the Sonoran Desert. And the Tohono O'odham Nation, or the reservation itself, is right there in the heart of the Sonoran Desert. It has really extreme temperatures, but also we're privileged in having 2 seasons, the winter season and the monsoon season, where we enjoy rainfall in a good level. Right now we are in the peak of the monsoon season. So the reservation itself is what you see here in the map, is in dark brown. But when you cross the borderline toward Mexico, the Tohono O'odham lives in small villages. So there is no recognition in Mexico about any kind of land or territory for them. They live basically in villages and don't have any kind of territorial recognition. Big contrast with the U.S., where there is I would call it international limits recognition, thinking that the tribe has or conforms a nation. And right there in the star is where the college is located. You're very welcome to visit us to see how wonderful landscape we enjoy. It's basically a rural set. The landscape is beautiful. The college at least the main campus, is next to the Baboquivari Mountains, where there is the Kidd Peak National Observatory. They are leasing the piece of land in the top of the mountain from the nation, from the tribe. And the Tohono O'odham has been recognized as one of the very few tribes that are able to basically integrate themselves with the environment. These ideas about interdependence, integration, symbiosis, harmony, those are not new words for the Tohono O'odham. In their own understanding and in their own language, they have an idea, a clear idea that environment and people are integrated and they have to survive together. So sustainability of the environment is sustainability of the people. And this has been for millennia, this idea. So the Tohono O'odham are direct descendants of the Hohokam culture. They used to have quite sophisticated engineering systems to capture monsoon and winter rainfall and use it for traditional crops, traditional agriculture. And here, what you see in this illustration, this reconstruction, is the area that is known as a Casa Grande in Arizona, quite close to Phoenix. And they survived for at least over 1,000 years. And the reasons of the disappearance is very, very discussed in the academic realm. But the Tohono O'odham believes that there was no disappearance at all. It just was a transformation, which adds to the idea of sustainability. Hohokam became the Akimel O'odham and the Tohono O'odham that lives together in Arizona. So they have in the culture and the language a very strong sense of sustainability as we interpret it in the academia, but at the same time it's part of the language, it's part of the traditions, it's part of the culture, it's part of every single aspect related to their life. And it's because basically sustainability means also survival. And this has been, from the beginning, a clear idea for the Tohono O'odham. Today, the Tohono O'odham maintain the traditions, maintain the language. There is some issues related to the language influenced by English, but the college, for instance, is very focused in preserve and nurture the language. So we are training back our students to improve their language and the traditional views. For instance, we just built last 2 years was inaugurated our Tohono O'odham Language Center, which is fully dedicated to preserve, to nurture, and to train students and academics and people interested in the language. And now, I'm showing this picture because one of the main traditions or the base, the iconic center in the Tohono O'odham is the Hashan. Hashan is the name for the saguaro cactus. And they harvest the saguaro cactus every year about June, late June. And that's why New Year's Eve doesn't happen in December. New Year's Eve happen in June for the Tohono O'odham, because it's such an important resource that they have with the saguaro that perms all the traditional activities. I had the privilege to be in this kind of experience that lasts for 3 nights in a row. And it's really fascinating. It's something that really defines or explains to you how deep is the Hashan in the culture and how deep is also this need to preserve the traditional views. This is just a picture. I have tons of pictures about the campus. I love my campus. This is the main campus. And this is the amphitheater where we have festivities, meetings, some festivals, and just to get together in the amphitheater. The name in Tohono O'odham is Nyokiki, and basically represents what I think has been very popular everywhere, the idea of the man in the maze. And the man in the maze is represented by Itoi, which is the man, and the maze is basically the journey of all human beings that has to go through in order to survive, to live in harmony with the environment. and it's something that's everywhere in the nation. You can go to the nation, and you will see all the trucks with a man in the mace, a sticker everywhere. It's really, really popular and becoming now popular even outside of the nation. Currently, the college is about 1,400 students, 60% autonomous of them, but about 95% includes other tribes um, from all over the United States. We have students from North Dakota, tribal members. We have from the East. We even have one from Alaska. And then also we have the Arizona Native American population represented by the Diné or Navajo, as some people know him, and the Apache as well, and the Yaqui. So it's really diverse in terms of representation of Native Americans in the United States. This is just basically just a fast picture about the programs that are related somehow with the idea of sustainability. But what I want to highlight is that each of these classes have a tone or then component. It's emerged traditional views with the science, with the techniques, with the tools, with the skills. This is very important to keep in mind. The big contribution of our college is that we offer a holistic view of the reality, the environment, the human being, all integrated in one of these classes, one each of these classes.
Thank you
Now,
so much, Dr.
can I
Key
start
Hunter.
because
We really appreciate what you have talked about. And, something that really got to me here, you say sustainability for the environment is sustainability for the people. And that is exactly what we're talking about now, that harmonious relationship that we need to build with the environment. So thank you for your wonderful answer. We're going to go to the last person on our panel, Dr. Davidson. We're going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Okay, so the question that each of us has been asked to answer is, how do we spark a paradigm shift in our students? And I would like to briefly summarize, very briefly, 3 ways in which to do that. Okay, the first is to have things visible all around the campus, which are obviously changes in the way things were before, that are consistent with saving energy, saving materials, and living more sustainably. So having solar panels on roofs, having green roofs on buildings that can capture stormwater, having LED lights that use much less energy, and even in the cafeteria, have food. We haven't really talked that much about sustainable foods, but in fact, it's great for students to realize that there's a huge difference between if they're eating TV dinners every night that have been frozen for a year in a deep freeze before they eat it, versus eating fresh fruits and vegetables that are local and have just been picked. Okay, so I think having a lot of visible evidence is really important. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think any class at all on campus can tie to sustainability. And I think it's important to have discussions in the classroom. I can actually give one example right now that students probably haven't thought about very much. Getting back to Professor Lal and his comment about how much time will it take for nature to heal itself after the Vietnam War. That really brings up the whole issue of the dimension of time. And when we think about, the range of time scales for things, on one hand, we've got molecular movements that take place on the scale of nanoseconds and even picoseconds. And on the other hand, we know that we've got galaxies out in the universe that are billions of light years away, and that light takes billions of years to get here. So we've got nanoseconds and picoseconds on one side, and we've got on the order of 10 to the 9th years on the other. So we're talking about well over 20 or 25 orders of magnitude. And I think enabling the students to realize that enormous range of times that exists, as well as the enormous range of spatial distances that exist. When we're talking about intermolecular spacings, and again, we're talking about galaxies that are a long distance away. So having the students just contemplate these orders of magnitude of scale for time and space, and discussing how do they react to that. I think things like that, as well as common everyday sustainability issues, like sustainability of transportation. That was brought up earlier, and that's such an important one. What are the different ways of transportation that exist, and how do you get from your apartment to school? If you have to go to, if you're on the East Coast, you have to go to the West Coast. How are you going to do that? What are the different ways? What are the time scales and spatial scales involved? There are just so many discussions that one can have in the classroom. So discussions in the classroom is kind of the second thing that we can do. And then finally, I think that students end up having a certain feeling that when they're on campus, they're safe, they're somewhat protected. I think it's good to get students off campus and even have students interact with the surrounding communities, doing volunteer work, working with ecosystem preservation organizations and conservation organizations. There are thousands of such organizations, and it gives students a chance to get off campus and to meet with people that are not just entirely at the university, and to see a little bit about, well, sustainability is part of life. It's not just part of what we do on campus and part of the classroom. So I think that all of these things are important. And lastly, I just want to make one comment that actually this is something that I learned just today, just in this session, which I think is amazing, is the talk of interconnectedness is so important. And I had not thought about that before, but in fact, if one thinks about the way students learn, and Alyssa, you mentioned approaching students where they're at, which is what you absolutely have to do. That means when we communicate with students, we have to depend on their interconnections with their prior experiences, what they've read, who they've talked with, what they've thought about. And so to me, that means that the way we think as humans is all about interconnectedness. And I really want to thank the organizers of this session and all of the speakers of this session that opened up my mind to realizing that interconnectedness is vitally important to understanding how to live sustainably. It's absolutely critical. So thank you.
Thank you so much to all the panelists. You have given us so much to chew on. Thank you for answering the question and connecting it to the students that are so curious as what they can do to improve our lives, the environment, nature. And this is something that I know they're quite curious about, and they're working so hard to get it done. So thank you for all your contributions. We are done here with the panel. I'm going to turn it over to you.
So much, Dr. Piaffi. Well, I thank our panelists who answer and share their insight. We welcome you back to your seats. For all the panelists, thank you so much. Thank you. At this time, we will go into table discussions. For those on Zoom, you will be joining breakout rooms. Please speak with those at your table and share and discuss your answers and thoughts to the same question. We should have it posted up there on the screens as well. How can we spark a paradigm shift in students' consciousness to awake a deep sense of personal responsibility for the environment? So after what we heard, combined with what the thoughts that we gather throughout this conference, and so it can also be found on paper at your table. For students, there are additional questions you can find at your table. Please have good discussions. Thank you.
All right, please wrap up your discussions. Of course, we hope these aren't the end of your discussions, but we hope that also after the program, you can continue these discussions as they're important ones to have. And I think we can have a growing number of relationships here amongst us. But we hope you all had insightful discussions, maybe even came up with some ideas and inspirations. And if so, we would love to hear about them. And so after the event, we will be having a feedback form going to all of you. So if you had any questions for the speakers or presentations today, or during these discussions, if you had any ideas or inspirations or projects that you think can answer this question, then we would love to work together with you and we want to hear them. So please fill out that feedback form after the event. But yes, we want to work together with all of you and support each other in creating a more sustainable and beautiful environment for our future. And so for our coming to our conclusion, I will pass it to my co-MC.
Thank you, Jasmine. For our concluding remarks, I'd like to invite up Professor Grace Piaffi. She is a member of the PWPA LA Advisory Committee. She has been a professor at Pasadena City College for over 30 years and is currently the faculty advisor for the CARP organization on campus. She obtained her master's degree in kinesiology and health and is currently working on her doctorate in educational leadership and management and a second doctorate in theology. In 1988, she was selected, little known fact, she was selected to represent Nigeria in the Seoul Olympic Games. Let's hear from her now.
They say all those good things about me because they love me. I know they love me so much. So they'll always, whenever they're up here, you know, they'll say some things that you'll be wondering, is that her? Yes, I did compete in the 88 Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea. And when I went back to Korea, I think it was 2019, we went to Korea, it brought back memories. I saw the stadium and it looked quite different. Everything has changed in Korea. Thank you so much, PWPA. This is fantastic, always fantastic. I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you come up with these great topics. I don't know how you come up with the professors that you line up. I cannot even get professors from my school to come and join. And look at here, this, and then online, I'm hearing Professor this, and thank you. And professors, thank you so much for being here, because I know this is not an easy time. We start back on Monday, so we have to prepare our classes. We have to make sure everything is ready for our students. I teach a lot of online classes, and that's not easy these days. But thank you so much for coming. The theme of revolution of consciousness for innovative harmony with nature. It challenges us to reimagine what it means to be human in relation with the earth. What can we do? What are we doing? What are we doing to change what we see? With the technological advances and what you guys have said, we see that there are two things. It could either damage or it could help, and a lot of times we see the damage done, and you heard quite a few of the people that spoke talked about that, the fact that acres and acres of land have been used for things other than preservation, and we see the environment being destroyed. So now we have to take up arms. We need to do the work. We need to go out there and try to change what people are used to. When my namesake, Dr. Selover, talked about that love, what Dr. Hanja Moon has done, and what we are following up with here. We cannot do this without love, and we're talking about that at our table. As a teacher, I need to know how to love. I need to love my students to be able to impact any change, any knowledge on them. And if I'm trying to ask them to do things, and I'm not coming from that point, that love, if I'm not using that, they will back off. They will think that I am forcing them to do things. So as we live this life, don't forget, God is love. And if God is love and we are connected to God, we're connected to love. And we're connected to one another. So I love you, and I love my brothers and sisters. And that is the key. Okay, and for everything we've talked about, science, changing changing our planet, try not to destroy. If you don't love the planet, if you don't love God, if you don't love what God has asked you to do or called you to do, you will not do it. You will not do. We're talking about someone throwing a banana peel out of a car and not understanding what the consequence of driving and just rolling down your window and tossing a banana peel out of your car. What does that do to the environment? Why do you do that? That consciousness that we talked about. Consciousness, not being conscious about it, not understanding what we're doing or why we're saying don't do it. And it takes a while for people to make that change. So each and every one of us has a job to do. And that is to teach people, to help people to understand what we're talking about. PWPA, what is it about? What are we about? Why are we having this? Why do we spend our Saturday mornings up here with you guys, instead of, lounging at home to doing things that, we enjoy. But this is so important for us, okay? And I do want to thank you so much for your contributions. Dr. Blackman, I see you sitting there. You are always speaking, and I appreciate all that you have done for this. And I know this is your campus, so thank you for inviting us here, okay? Yes. So in closing, the big question is, what are you going to do as an individual to help this? They have done so much. They have, do you have your book? This is an important read. They came up with this, they put this together for each and every one of us. And if you don't have it, make sure you get it. This is important. They have so much information in this. And all the professors that contributed, I think their peace is in here. So please, am I okay to say that? Yes. So please make sure that you get this if you haven't. All right? Thank you.
Wow, what a great concluding note. And Professor Apiafi lives by that. If you ever want to feel love, you just go to her for a hug and she'll embrace you. But yes, on that note and on the same note, she was saying, we really want to thank all of you for joining us here today. We know it's a Saturday morning before the semester starts and maybe a chance to prepare and do many things, but we want to thank you for taking the time to be here, whether it was here at Cal State LA or through Zoom if you're joining virtually. And we're really grateful, and we hope that today could inspire all of us for further insightful discussions and new perspectives. And so, yeah, please look forward. Our next annual event, we are going to do June 2026. So please look forward to our next event. And as Professor Apiafi said so beautifully, this event is based on our recent publication by PWPA LA. We do have it available on Amazon, but if any of you are interested in reading it and giving us constructive feedback, we always want to grow, we always want to improve. So if you would like to, give us feedback on it, please let the PWPA LA team know, and we would be happy to give you a copy and receive your thoughts, your feedback on it. But finally, we hope today's program could inspire new projects and initiatives to creating a more sustainable future. So if you have any projects or inspirations, please let us know. And as PWPA LA, we want to support you and work together to make it possible. So please stay in contact, get in touch with us, and we look forward to being on this endeavor together with all of you.
Okay, this officially concludes our PWPA LA event. Thank you for all those who took the time to be here with us today, whether in person or virtually through Zoom. And please feel free to stay and enjoy. If you had not had a chance, please look at the posters that were brought by the professors in the Alhambra room across the hall. If you like, we could get to the side of the room, this side, and my left, your right. And if you can get to the side of the room, to the audience right side. Again, thank you so much.